I just did a couple videos, one on crypto stuff, another one on just personal life, dreams that the Lord has been sharing with my family and I. I'm on here to share a dream that I had last night. I wanted to make a specific video about it because I do believe it is a specific word for the church. I've got about 25 minutes. I'm thinking I can get it out before that, but I got to head to work. This is heavy stuff. This is serious stuff, okay? In my dream now, we have things that are on our heart, but the Lord, He sees behind the scenes of what's going on in our culture and in our nations and in our world. So when He shares things, we need to kind of like put our stuff aside and embrace what He's saying now. Okay, so I had a dream that I was walking somewhere and I knew that there was some family members that I had never met before. And I was supposed to meet a couple of them. It was like something that was happening where people in my family or people in different places were being able to meet people in their bloodline, in their family that they had never met before or even knew existed, right? Like people that might have your same last name and are in your family tree but live in a different state that for whatever reason you just never knew about or met. That's what it was like. People were being reconnected to others like that. I go to find whoever I was supposed to meet, and it was like I knew the location. So I go to this location, and it was in an apartment complex. I go into the apartment complex, and scene changes, and I'm inside an apartment building. It was nice, simple. There were two young women there. Both of them were my relatives. They were my blood somehow. And they were surprised to see me, and I was surprised to see them. And I'm trying to remember this the best I can as I'm sharing it. And I'm trying to discern who they are. I don't want to scare them. I don't want to provoke them. I don't want to offend them, right? I want to be sensitive. I want to be sensitive to who they are, and I'm trying to discern who they are, where they're at spiritually, whatever. And that way I don't say anything presumptuously or arrogantly, right? And I'm looking around. I'm just being observant. I'm looking around the apartment building. I'm listening to what one of them is saying. And one of them had to get on the phone and make a phone call. And it was an old phone. It was like a corded phone. And I overheard them say, yeah, we need more food. We need more money. And it was like they were calling someone in authority to tell them that they needed more money and food. And I'm not really understanding what's going on at this point. And she gives me a can opener, like literally a can opener, as a gift, like here. And I'm thankful for it, right? I don't understand why I have it. Why is she giving me a can opener? It didn't occur to me in the dream. And I didn't understand who she was asking for more money from or more food from, but it didn't feel like it was a family person. And then I start to look around the apartment, and on a table in front of her was some kind of communist propaganda. Not a poster, but it was some kind of, maybe it was a poster, but it was embedded into the coffee table. And then I look around and I saw more communist paperwork in like a little thin book, and I began to realize, whoa, these two young women are communists. They're like a part of the Communist Party in the United States, and they're my family. They're blood, and I'm wrestling with like, okay, how do I how do I deal with this? How do I love them? But I could see a simple innocence on them, a heart for justice, but this communism that they had subscribed to was starting to crack because they were running out of money, they were running out of food, and they were looking to the government, they were looking to the Communist Party to give them what they needed, and they weren't getting it, and it wasn't enough what they were getting. And I knew, I was like, whoa, the realities of communism are about to really set in for them. But I couldn't really even tell them that, right? And that was the end of the dream. Short dream. And I'm thinking like, can opener. Oh my gosh, like canned foods. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what communism gives you. Canned food. Like, you don't get the best. There's not enough to go around, and you don't get the best. And you will probably need a can opener if you want to eat. And I'm thinking about this dream. I'm like, Lord, why did you give me this dream? Because I woke up with it this morning. And very strongly, I felt, and it harkens back to some other dreams I've had in the past, like one specifically. But how are we as Christians loving those around us that believe different politically? And on one hand, we're all humans, right? So we're all kind of each other's brothers and sisters in that regard, but there are Christians that think that true Christianity looks like communism. They don't understand. They talk about the early church and community, but they don't understand that wasn't the government. They don't there's a lot of mix up here, right? The enemy has perverted justice. The enemy has perverted compassion, replaced godly compassion with human compassion. So, but how are we to love people that are our blood or our brothers and sisters, even in Christ, that vote differently, believe differently when it comes to the political issues? Clearly, too much who is given is expected. So I'm saying, if you're aware of how evil communism is, how evil Marxism is, how it has infected the young generation, then we should be equally full of love and compassion for those people. This us versus them stuff is of the enemy. This tribalism is not of God. You may believe Jesus is who he said he was up here, but has that knowledge renewed your mind? Or is your heart born again? Because if you have a us versus them mentality, that's not love. And people, when I talk about love like this, people get pretty funny because they think, oh well, you don't have to agree with them. We shouldn't agree with them. That's not love. Love isn't agreeing with someone. Love is telling them the truth with compassion and kindness. So how are we dealing with our family members, those around us, the young people who really have bitten into this apple of of death? Because that's what communism is. All right, it's not going to meet all of our needs. It's not going to bring true justice. It's not going to liberate anybody. So are we repelling people from Christ, or are we bringing people into the kingdom, into a renewed mind, so that they can be aware of what's going on politically? Because communism has no room for freedom of religion. Communism has no room for Christianity. I mean, look around the world. What has communism done to Christianity, to free Christians, non-denominational Christianity, spirit-filled Christianity? So, yeah, I feel like it's a correction for the church, for me as well, to just love better. Someone that I work with, it's very interesting. Someone that I work with, Christian, wears a cross, is going through the Bible. Mom's been praying for him. Had a car wreck, almost died. Has got another lease on life. But his dad is so bitter and angry and left-wing that it's influenced his Christianity and the way he understands the world around him. And the Lord's like, look, just love him. Help him understand the Gospels. Help him understand the basics of Christianity. Don't focus on the contentious stuff right now. Don't go there in the political. Just bring him closer to me. Right? I think sometimes we have this stupid mindset of us versus them, liberal versus conservative, Republican versus Democratic, Christian versus atheist, or believer versus unbeliever. And do you not know that it's only by God's grace that you have any faith at all? People did not grow up the same way as you. So many people have not had the opportunities that you've had to know the Lord the way that you know him. So it's up to us to help those people get closer to God. Are we putting politics? I mean, it's important. I have dreams. The Lord speaks to me about politics. It's all critical. But we need to discern where people are at and help them get closer to Jesus, not agree with us politically first. So I'm going to end this pretty much there. Ponder, consider what I'm saying. I talked about a dream that I had, that this dream reminds me of. I had a dream 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, where I was looking down over the United States of America, and I knew that judgment was hanging over our nation. And, in my mind, I would have assumed that it was sin, right? Immorality. But when I looked at the nation, I saw all these cracks. When you see a lake that has dried out, and there's all these cracks in the mud because it's dry and it starts to crack. I saw all these cracks all over the nation, separating everywhere. And I saw blood running through all these cracks. And I knew that it was division. Division was producing God's judgment, because we weren't loving people the way that Christ loves us. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's the most important, right? And people, I served in the pro-life movement for many years before, recent, back in the early and mid 2000s, at a critical time where justices were being chosen that ultimately contributed to Roe versus Wade being broken. But I didn't always have a heart for pro-life. I didn't care about abortion one way or the other, and I had been a Christian for a few years before the Lord confronted me, and I understood his heart. I felt his heart over the issue of abortion in our nation. And it wasn't until I had his heart and understood his heart for abortion and for the unborn babies and all of that, and how that contributed to a lack of revival in our nation, right? Like, if we don't have a heart for justice, like, we want revival, but we don't want justice. But so I'm just saying, hey, like, I was a Christian for some years before I understood some of this political stuff. And some of y'all understand a lot of this political stuff, but you don't even know Jesus hardly at all. You watch Fox News like it's church. I watch Fox News sometimes, but like, you talk about politics more than you talk about Jesus. Lord, help us all. Help us all. Mercy. All right, blessings. Christ is most definitely King. Hallelujah. Yes, he is. All right, I'm out. Blessings, guys. To be continued.